don't know how you want to do it. I can also just take it away. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Hey everybody. How's it going? I'm Andrew Gunther. So I'm joining you all today from OpenAI currently. Previously, so I graduated from here at Cal Poly back in 2014 with a master's in computer science. After leaving Cal Poly, I spent 7 years working at AWS, building products there. After I left AWS, I went to a small aerospace startup in San Francisco, where I spent 3 years building satellites. And then back in January, left there to go join OpenAI, where I now work as one of the leads for our infrastructure org, particularly focused on reliability. And so today, I wanted to share with you a bit about the OpenAI Realtime API, which is a new API that we released, give you a little demo of that, talk about it, and then open up for questions at the end. And those questions, like, it doesn't have to be about Realtime API. That's all totally fair game. We can chat about whatever people find interesting. So the Realtime API. I think a better starting point for this is to talk about what some of our more recent model advancements that sort of power this underneath. Who here is familiar with advanced voice within ChatGPT? Has anybody played with that feature yet? You know what I'm talking? All right, we got one person. So I'll give a quick rundown. So previously, when you used voice mode in ChatGPT, what would happen is a model would convert your speech into text. That text would get sent to ChatGPT. It would send text back, and it was run through another model that was a text-to-speech model. The primary advancement with advanced voice that came with our GPT-4o model is GPT-4o is multimodal. And when we say multimodal, that means it can support different types of media. So we started multimodal support, I think back with 4T was maybe the first. So multimodal means, as an example, the same model that powers text can also do things like generate images and understand images, because all of these things can be vectorized, right? Your words, this is kind of the underlying power of LLMs, is that the text you send gets converted into some vectors, and then the machine says, these vectors seem like they go next after those vectors. And that is then converted back into words, and that comes out. The same can be applied as well to images. So this is how image understanding within ChatGPT works. And so a multimodal model basically means you could send an image in and say, hey, describe this thing for me, and you can get text out. Or you can send text in and get an image out. 4o, the advancement there is that it is multimodal now to include voice and audio. So in this previous process with voice, where we would have to convert speech to text and then text back to speech, we can skip those steps now. You can send audio directly into the model and get audio directly back out. So this is what powers advanced voice. So advanced voice is significantly lower latency. You can interrupt it when it's responding to you. It speaks in different tones of voice. It understands your tone of voice, which is all something that you lose when you're doing this like lossy conversion to text. Like, it can kind of formulate from like the words that you're saying, how you might be feeling, but advanced voice really like understands within the model what that means and makes for much more fluid conversational capabilities. So the Realtime API is basically the API version of this. It is very similar to what powers advanced voice itself. We also offer I won't call it historical. One of our primary APIs is the completions API. So this is basically send text in, you get text back. That now has also been added to support audio in, audio out, or audio in, text out, whichever way you want to do it. Real time is unique in that it's not the same request and response. It's a constant connection sending data back and forth. So you can build applications just like advanced voice on top of the Realtime API. One of our launch partners who has a very cool application of this is a language learning app called Speak. So Speak currently only supports English and Spanish, but basically uses the power of these models to be effectively like the first language learning platform that will live correct pronunciation of words. Because it not only is just trying to guess like what words you're trying to say and turn it into text, it hears how you are saying it and can correct you and correct your pronunciation. Which is very cool. I have kind of our launch blog post up about this. There's a video, I won't show it here, but you can check out some videos from our launch partners showing off some stuff that they've built. What I'm going to show you today is also alongside of launching the Realtime API, we open sourced a project called the Realtime Console. So this is effectively a playground that does all the fiddly bits of connecting up with the Realtime API and really gives you a solid basis to start building kind of new and exciting applications on top of the Realtime API. So I've cloned that locally and I'm running it now. And I can do, hopefully, a little demo here. Oh, I can't, can I do?
Hey there, how can I help you today?
Hopefully I don't get into a terrible audio loop with this, but we're gonna try. Hey, can you tell me what the weather's like in San Luis Obispo right now?
In San Luis Obispo right now, it's around 18.8 degrees Celsius with a light wind blowing at 2.5 kilometers per hour. How's that for?
It's pretty nice. Do you think it's gonna hold up through tomorrow?
I can't predict the weather for tomorrow, but generally San Luis Obispo has pretty mild and pleasant weather. Would you like me to check the forecast for you?
Yeah, that'd be great.
It looks like I can only provide the current weather information at the moment. Based on the current conditions and typical weather patterns for San Luis Obispo, it's likely to stay mild. But for a precise forecast, it might be best to check a local weather service.
Okay, so I didn't realize it would clear it, but so that's the Realtime API. And one thing that I did there is it was able to check the weather. And so I want to talk a little bit about how that works. We call these tools. And this is something that's used in a lot of different parts of our API. So tool use within OpenAI APIs is basically you can tell the model, hey, I have this function that you can call, and these are the parameters, these are the types of those parameters, and these are the return values. And the model, when it thinks it wants to use that tool, will respond and tell you, hey, go use this tool and let me know what it says, and it will integrate that into its response. So what actually happened under the covers here is when I asked it, hey, what's the weather like? The first thing it sent back was not audio. It sent back text. And that text said, I want to use the get weather tool, and I want to call it with these parameters, and then send me the response back. And so within this repo, I have code locally that can go and check the weather. It returns those results to the model as text, and then it follows up with speech using that data that's come back. This is super powerful, and you can build some incredibly interesting applications with this. At the aerospace startup I was at previously, I built a chatbot for Slack there that heavily utilized tools. In the first version of it, I basically gave our entire API spec to it. And so any one of our APIs, you could actually call directly from this Slack bot. So you could make queries and say, hey, do we have any imaging attempts over, South Florida in the next couple of days? And it would go and call. And one of the cool things here is it can even do function chaining. Like it can reason about like, oh, first I need to call this API to get I need to call this API to understand like what's my actual geography for Southern Florida. Okay, now I have the geography for Southern Florida. I know I have this other API that I can call where I can pass in a geography and I get imaging attempts back. And so then it will call that API, and then it'll get those imaging attempts back, and then it'll filter it down based on what's in that window, and then it'll finally send the response. So you can build really powerful multi-stage tools using this. You don't have to have these like hyper-specific implementations. And one thing I was toying with at the time that I left was we started to get like people started to really rely on this chatbot and passing like even more advanced queries to it. And our existing API service wasn't really enough. So I created a function that was just called execute SQL. And it would just write SQL for the data that it needed and read only, just in case. And I would just go and run the SQL that it asked for and return the response, and it would answer the question based on just the SQL that it wrote. So I gave it the table schema up front, some descriptions of what the tables were and what all the fields were, and it was able to just like write SQL statements to in a single tool call get the data that it needed. So again, that wasn't using the real-time API, but that's now that same functionality is exposed as part of the real-time API. Yeah. I'll answer that actually in a little once we get to Q&A, just for the session recording. But I'll keep that in mind. Let's see what else. I think that was mostly it for what I had though, in terms of the real-time demo and models. So this that was what I was saying. This is all available on GitHub. This tool is open source. You can also, the README has a description for adding your own tools. It's super easy to do. You basically write sort of this schema. You write the schema for your function call, and this will automatically do the wiring for you to ensure that this gets sent with your requests, and we'll do the wiring to ensure that it gets called when the tool wants to invoke. So really, like, I love that we released this alongside the launch of the real-time API. Like, this is very much like the quickest way you can get up and running and playing with these sorts of tools. So yeah. Do you want me to send it to you, or do you have it? Oh, you found it. Okay, cool. Awesome. That's what I had prepared. So